All right. Welcome, each and every one of you to the third episode of the Bailey Report. I'm your host, Javier Bailey, and we've got a special program today. This broadcast today is going to focus on the facts surrounding the indictment of one Donald J. Trump. Yes, the same, one and the same as the former president of these United States of America. Specifically, the indictment was brought on June 8th of 2023 in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida. That would be in Miami. The style of the case is the United States of America versus Donald J. Trump and Waltine Nauta. That's Mr. Trump's assistant, former Navy ensign, I believe. Now, before we get into the facts, I want to set the record here. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that you understand where we're going on this particular platform. Uh, it's nothing new that Donald Trump has been indicted in the federal court in Miami, Florida. He's also facing right now a state indictment in the state court of Southern District of New York, where he's allegedly misused campaign funds, lied on federal tax documents, and all of which was related to the payoff of porn star Stormy Daniels, which he, of course, denies. But moreover, I want to, uh, this case out of Florida is a case involving um, the alleged misuse, mishandling, and removal of top secret and confidential classified documents. It is alleged, from all of the reporting we've seen since the indictments come out, that these documents contain nuclear secrets. They contain military secrets regarding plans for the attack on the nation of Iran. It likewise uh, it likewise contains allegedly information on our defense to an attack on this nation. All of which would be quite important and unquestionably uh, treasonous if one were to leak or to remove or to show those documents to others who have not been cleared to read those documents. Tell you a little bit about myself. In my younger days, right when I was finishing college, took a job working on Capitol Hill for United States Senator Jim Sasser. Um, that my position with Senator Sasser, uh, I was placed on the Intergovernmental Relations Subcommittee for the United States Senate. I was in my early 20s and I was excited. I was a political science major. My degree was in third world and urban politics. Well, my focus was, my degree was in political science. But nonetheless, when I went to Washington uh, to work on the matters that I worked on, that were assigned to me, we all had color coded badges. And those badges were designed to identify the level of access that you would have. Uh, and I was a staffer. I mean, but there still were levels of access that each and every one of us was cleared to have. I could read a confidential document. I could read a sensitive document. I could not read, nor should I put my paws on a top secret document or one that was marked for eyes only, for the reader's eyes only. Donald Trump allegedly, and we're going to read it and look at the facts, allegedly removed hundreds, if not thousands, of documents that were so confidential and so secret that in order to handle them or read them or discuss them, you had to be in a skiff. It's an environment whereby no recording can take place, where it's what we call a sanitized environment. And yet Trump allegedly took these documents from the White House to his golf club, his a country club where he lives in it's called Mar-Lago, and uh, the documents were not secured. They were stored in bathrooms and in basements, and there were hundreds of documents found in boxes on a stage in a ballroom. In fact, most recently, there are reports, and I've heard recordings that sound just like Donald Trump to me, whereby the defendant, Donald Trump, was showing these documents to a reporter who was interviewing him and a couple of other campaign staffers, none of whom had been cleared to see these documents. Now, I'm going to make every effort to be neutral as we go through this indictment. I have my own personal feelings about Donald Trump, but listen, if I were called or if you were called to sit on a jury, on this particular jury, just like any other jury, you're not asked to be inhuman. So you come there with your own preconceptions and biases. The real question is, can you set those aside, listen to the evidence as it is entered in the courtroom in the trial, nothing else, and then apply the law to that evidence as the judge gives it to you? So I want you to be the juror today. I want you to be my jurors. And we're going to examine this case of United States of America versus Donald J. Trump. The indictment begins with an introduction. It reads, Defendant Donald J. Trump was the 45th president of the United States of America. He held office from January 20th, 2017 until January 20th, 2021. Remember, the indictment was brought on June 8th, 2023. Further reads, as president, Trump had lawful access to the most sensitive classified documents and national defense information gathered and owned by the United States government, including information from the agencies that comprise the entire United States intelligence community and the United States Department of Defense. Over the course of his presidency, Trump gathered newspapers, press clippings, letters, notes, cards, photographs, official documents, and other materials in cardboard boxes that he kept in the White House. Among the materials Trump stored in his boxes were hundreds of classified documents. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to foreign attack. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States of America, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. I'm on paragraph 4 of the indictment against Donald Trump. At 12 p.m. on January 20th, 2021, Trump ceased to be president. Let me say that again. The first sentence in paragraph 4 is that at 12 p.m. on January 20th, 2021, Donald J. Trump ceased to be president. As he departed the White House, Trump caused scores of boxes, many of which contain classified documents, to be transported to the Mar-a-Lago Club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he maintained his residence. Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents. The Mar-a-Lago Club was an active social club, which between January 2021 and August of 2022 hosted events for tens of thousands of members and guests. After Trump's presidency, the Mar-a-Lago Club was not an authorized location for the storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. Nevertheless, Trump stored his boxes containing classified documents in various locations at the Mar-a-Lago Club, including a ballroom, a bathroom, and a shower, an office space, his bedroom, and a storage room. So I don't want to bore you. Let's just stop right here for a second. These are the salient facts as presented by Prosecutor Jack Smith and his team to the federal district court in an indictment. This is what was presented to the federal grand jury prior to the indictment. And these are the facts that Donald J. Trump must face at trial. Let me continue reading. On two occasions in 2021, Trump showed, now listen to this, classified documents to others as follows. In July of 2021, at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and two members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance, Trump showed and transcribed or described a plan of attack that's that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told these uh, individuals who had not been cleared, that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Now, what the prosecutors are doing here is they are identifying who Trump, uh, uh, they're identifying the transgression here of his showing unclassified and discussing, not unclassified, but classified top secret documents uh, with people who had not been cleared. They had no clearance whatsoever. He didn't know anything about these folks. He didn't know their backgrounds or their histories. They could have been spies that infiltrated his inner circle. We don't know. I'm not saying they were, but what I am saying is that that is why there are clearance procedures put in place so that this kind of thing doesn't happen. I'm almost finished here. Um, in August of or September of 2021, at the Bedminster Club, Trump showed a representative of his political action committee who did not possess a security clearance a classified map related to a military operation and told this person that he should not be showing it to him and that the representative should not get any closer to him. On March 30th, 2022, the FBI opened a criminal investigation into unlawful retention and classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago Club. A federal grand jury investigation began the next month, I'm sorry. The grand jury issued a subpoena requiring Trump to turn over all documents with classified markings. Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and the grand jury investigation and conceal his continued retention of classified documents. Among other things, now, these are the overt acts that are alleged in the indictment. Listen to this: suggesting that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI and the grand jury that Trump did not have these documents called for by the grand jury subpoena, directing defendant Walter Nauta to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, the FBI, and the grand jury, and suggesting that his attorney hide or destroy documents called for by grand jury subpoena, providing to the FBI and grand jury just some of the documents called for by the grand jury while claiming he was fully cooperating, and causing a certification to be submitted to the FBI and the grand jury, falsely representing that all documents called for by the subpoena had been produced, while knowing full well, in fact, not all such documents had been produced. As a result of Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency and refusal to return them, uh, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022. We're going to pause for a second. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the delay and a little technical thing we had to deal with there. So we're back on the 49-page indictment of Donald Trump and Walter Nauta. Now, as I previously stated, uh, the accusation is so far that, as stated in the indictment, that hundreds of classified and top secret documents containing information regarding nuclear secrets, regarding plans of military attack on other nations, foreign secrets, and likewise, these documents allegedly contained um, uh, top secret responses to attacks on America. And yet, Donald Trump, according to the indictment, knowing full well that those documents were to remain at the National Archives in the White or remain in the White House when he left the White House, took those documents with him when called upon to return them. According to the indictment, Donald Trump lied to the FBI, lied to his lawyers, signed affidavits saying that everything had been turned in and that he didn't have any more of such documents, and made every effort to obstruct the investigation of his retention of those documents by a grand jury and by the FBI. I'm on paragraph 8 of the indictment of Donald J. Trump. It says, as a result of Trump's retention of classified documents, and after his presidency and refusal to return them, uh, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022. On January 17th, nearly 1 year after Trump left office and after months of demands by the National Archives and Records Administration for Trump to provide all missing presidential records, Trump provided only 15 boxes, of which contained 197 documents with classification markings. On June 3rd, in response to a grand jury subpoena demanding the production of all documents with classification markings, Trump's attorney provided 38 more documents to the FBI. On August 8th, pursuant to a court-authorized search warrant, the FBI recovered from Trump's office and storage room at the Mar-a-Lago Country Club 102 more documents. Now, this begs the question. I'm going to summarize from here. This begs the question. What in the world did Trump plan to do with all those secrets? Now, we know of his character. We know that he's a guy that will do anything. He has no boundaries. So it begs the question, what in the world did this president, ex-president, who lost the race, what did he plan to do with America's secrets? Because that is the question of the day. That is what he's indicted for. Let's talk about the Mar-a-Lago Club. Most of you, including myself, are not familiar with it. We've heard of it because of his residency there. We know he owns it, or at least the Trump organization owns it. But let's talk about it for a second. According to page 4 of the indictment, paragraph 10, the Mar-a-Lago Club was located on South Ocean Boulevard in Palm Beach, Florida. It included Trump's residence and more than 25 guest rooms, 2 ballrooms, a spa, a gift store, exercise facilities, office space, and an outdoor pool and patio. As of January 2021, the Mar-a-Lago Club, listen to this, had hundreds of members and was staffed by more than 150 full-time, part-time, and temporary employees. Folks, all of these folks had access to America's secrets, nuclear secrets, military secrets. Do you understand what I'm saying? This, my friends, is a serious allegation, very serious allegation. And I, for one, continue to raise the question, what did Donald Trump want with all those secrets? Now, for those of you who've never worked in a governmental operation whereby classified material are, are used or maintained, let me give you a little explanation. I'm almost through with this indictment. I'm not going to go through every page, but you get the gist of the allegations. Then we're going to talk about Donald Trump's defenses, okay? But let's take a look at the nature of top secret, secret, and confidential documents. By executive order number 13292 on March 25th, 2003, and executive order 13526 on December 29th of 2009, national security information was classified as either top secret, secret, or confidential. Information that was classified as top secret, if the authorized disclosure of that information reasonably could be expected to cause exceptionally grave damage to the national security that the original classification authority was able to identify and describe. Information was classified as secret if that unauthorized disclosure of that information would reasonably could reasonably be expected to cause serious damage to the national security of this nation. Information is classified as confidential if the unauthorized disclosure of that information could reasonably be expected to cause damage to the national security of the United States of America. Bear with me, we're almost through. So I'm not going to get into the rest of the classifications. I don't want to bore you. Let's talk for a minute about Donald Trump's defense. Now, Donald Trump claims that because he was once president of the United States, that under the Presidential Records Act, the Presidential Records Act now, that he had the authority to remove uh, certain documents and take them with him. And he's even been known to say that if he just thought it, he could declassify these documents. So I did some research and I pulled the law authorizing the National Archives. Listen to this. The Presidential Records Act requires the president to separate personal documents from presidential records before leaving office. That law is cited as 44 USC, United States Code 2203, subsection B. Let me say that one more time. Under the Presidential Records Act, that Donald Trump has often now cited as his defense to this indictment that appears to contain quite damaging information uh, and spells out with great detail criminal acts. Donald Trump has said that he's innocent of all of this because, yeah, he had the documents, but he couldn't deny having them. The FBI took him out of his house. We saw the FBI take him out of his house, out of his club. But he says that the Presidential Records Act allows him to maintain those records, that every president has a presidential library and that they're allowed to uh, keep classified documents that they obtained during their presidency. Well, nothing can be further from the truth. It's not what the law says. In fact, in every presidential library, I've been to two or three. I've been to the Kennedy Library, I've been to the Clinton Library, been to the Carter Library. Each one of them, been to the Reagan Library. Each one of them uh, specifically and clearly lets the visitor know that the documents, pictures, and other things that are held there belong to the United States of America and are on loan to the library from the National Archives. Uh, this this law goes on to say that the Presidential Records Act makes clear that upon the conclusion of the president's term in office, the National Archives and Records Administration assumes responsibility for the custody, control, preservation, and access to the records of a president. That's in subsection G1. The Presidential Records Act makes the legal status of presidential records clear and unambiguous, providing that the United States reserves and retains complete ownership, possession, and control of presidential records. There is no history, practice, or provision in the law for presidents to take official records with them when they leave office, such as a 2 year period as described in some reports. Well, and that was described by a guy facing a 40-page indictment. We're going to stop it right there for a minute. Now, Donald Trump must be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. That is the standard across this nation. That is provided as a matter of due process and as a matter of criminal procedure in every courtroom in this nation. He has a right, an absolute right, to be declared innocent until he's proven guilty. Trump doesn't have to prove anything. You got to remember that. He does he does not have to testify. He cannot be compelled to testify. He does not have to put on any evidence. It is the government's job. It is the government's responsibility and obligation once they brought this indictment. Now, an indictment only means a formal charge. An indictment has no more importance than um, uh, than the paper it's written on. An indictment is just a formal charge. It means that a grand jury found probable cause to to formally charge the individual with the criminal conduct that's complained of therein. In this case, Donald Trump has an absolute right, Mr. Nalta has an absolute right to be deemed and considered innocent until Jack Smith and his prosecutorial team um, are able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Donald Trump is in fact guilty. If they fail to prove it, or if there is a hung jury, which means they failed to prove it, Donald Trump walks out of there with still cloaked, still wrapped, still submerged in his innocence. And it doesn't matter how much you like him or don't like him. Doesn't matter how much I like him or don't like him. I don't like him. But he's an innocent man. Now, why am I telling you that? You all know that some of you watch enough television, and I know in over 25 years of criminal defense work as a lawyer, I have emphasized this point to jurors over and over and over and over again because nothing can be more important than the presumption of innocence. Nothing, my friends, can be more important than your right to remain silent and not have to defend yourself at all. However, this fool decided to go to the airwaves, to do interviews, to hold a press conference or two, and to discuss his retention of these documents before the government ever proved it. Now, let me put this in perspective for you. He's already admitted that he retained these documents, and he admits that he did not have permission to do so. You know, it can't get any worse. Likewise, my friends, Donald Trump has already stated that uh, uh, his defense in this matter, he should have let his lawyers handle it. He shouldn't have said a thing other than, I'll speak when the time comes. I have nothing to say. But instead, in keeping with his narcissistic and egotist behavior, Donald Trump has told the world that, in fact, he did have these secret documents. He did have them in his possession. He did not have permission to take them. And his defense of that behavior is, I was president, I could do what I wanted to do. Well, the truth of the matter is that when he walked out of the White House on January 20th, 2021, he was not president. And it doesn't matter whether the documents were at Camp David, Mar-a-Lago, or Trump Tower in Manhattan. They were not his to keep. So, my friends, as I have shown you, the Presidential Records Act, which to this date appears to be the only defense that Donald Trump has raised, it won't cut it because it doesn't say what he says it says. Now, let's talk about the unauthorized removal and retention of classified documents or material. The law, 18 U.S.C. 1924, Section 1924, states whoever, being an officer, employee, contractor, or consultant of the United States, and by virtue of his office, employment, position, or contract, becomes possessed of documents or materials containing classified information belonging to the United States and knowingly removes such documents or materials without authority, now remember that, and with the intent to retain such documents, materials at an unauthorized location shall be fined or imprisoned for not more than 5 years or both. Now, as I just went over with you, in his public relations defense, his public outcry that this was a witch hunt and a hoax and all those other names he calls it. Donald J. Trump has already admitted to the crime, but he's still cloaked. He's still wrapped in the presumption of innocence. He is still innocent until the government proves him guilty. I don't know about this guy, man. You know, um, I can remember when Donald Trump wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. Now, he didn't really write it. I actually was a fan of the book. And little did I know that there was a ghostwriter who didn't get credit for it. We found that out later. But when back during that time, we all knew, for those of you who followed him, that he was this brash, rich guy who liked to hang out with stars, who liked to hang out with athletes, who liked to hang out with entertainers, and that he had a tendency to brag and to talk too much. But what we didn't know was that Donald Trump was the blatant racist and bigot, that he was so narcissistic that he would embrace the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong un, that he would embrace the nation's number one enemy, Vladimir Putin, and the nation of Russia, that he would attack the fallen soldiers of this nation and those who might have been captured and held as POWs during the Vietnam War, and say that they were not heroes because they had fallen, or they were not heroes because they had been captured. Little did we know that this was a guy who would uh, later uh, have three wives, and uh, that he would embrace the most cruel dictators found on the face of the earth today. This is a guy who is a dangerous man, who has an antichrist spirit, and who deserves to face these charges. He deserves it. Now that you've been given the facts, now that you've been given a leg up on this case of United States versus Donald J. Trump and Waltine Nauta, you be the judge. You be the judge. And as more facts come out, as more criminal charges come out, you you judge for yourself. Is Donald Trump a criminal? Should he face these charges? And should he go to prison? Everybody, this was the third episode of the Bailey Report, and I look to see you again.